Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of StormWatch. I'm your host, John Willis, here with your co-host, Brad Willis, here to recap the three most recent games for the Carolina Hurricanes from the week of February 18th through 25th. We've got three games here. On February 19th, the Chicago Blackhawks came into town to play the Carolina Hurricanes. The final score in this one was 6-3 Hurricanes. Pretty dominant performance throughout. This was a fairly easy game. The Hurricanes made it look easy, particularly through the beginning portions of this game. Like I said, the score was 6-3. In the first period, the Hurricanes get up 1-0 by a goal from Michael Bunting with an assist from Natchez and Drury. That was a nice little backhander from the slot. Yep. Natchez then in the second period has an unassisted goal that is followed by Jesperi Kotkaniemi finally getting on the board for his 10th of the season. That was assisted by Dmitry Orlov and Teuvo Teravainen. Aho then gets it going as well with his 20th of the season with an assist from Svechnikov and Jesper Fast. And then Nick Foligno in the second period would answer for Chicago for their first goal of the game, his 13th of the season. In the third period, Brett Burns from Aho and Jarvis, and then Bedard would get one on the power play. That one from Burns previously was on the power play as well. Mm-hmm. Then Connor Bedard will get one on the power play, and then shortly after, Tyler Johnson would get one on the power play, both for Chicago, making it 5-3. Martin Nook then gets the empty netter to make it 6-3. So a little bit of a scoring frenzy there at the end of the game, but the Hurricanes really did have this one in the bag from pretty much the first period onward. Shots were 17-42 for Carolina. 42 shots for Carolina, only 17 for the Blackhawks. Eight penalty minutes apiece. Hits were 24-12 in favor of Chicago, actually. Block shots 16-11 for Chicago. Giveaways 12 for Chicago, 16 for Carolina, and takeaways 4 for Chicago, 7 for Carolina. Thoughts on the game?
About Chicago, living up here north of Chicago, it's got to be a tough job looking at that team and praising who you want to keep going forward, build around Bedard with. I think
my biggest takeaway from this game is how bad the Blackhawks were. Just really watching them for a full 60 minutes, they're a bad hockey team.
Yeah, well, they're going to get another number one pick, or at least have the odds of winning the number one pick.
True.
And so Spencer Martin's 3-0 with the Canes.
3-0 with the Hurricanes. He actually looked really good in this one. Like I said, the shots on goal were 17-42, so he wasn't tested all that much. He did get beat on 3 occasions. I wouldn't really fault him on any of them. I'm trying to remember. Not all of them come to mind. I remember there was a nice deflection off a pass from Bedard. Then Bedard had one backdoor tap in. Bedard also scored earlier in the game and was basically staring down Martin. At this point, I think it would have been 5-2, maybe 4-2 at the point that he scored that goal, but then it was ruled offside. But I don't know if you saw that. Mm-mm. He scored. You remember the goal that was called back offsides? Do you remember that at all? Anyways,
no, I don't.
There was a goal that was scored by Bedard. It was called back offsides. It was challenged for offsides. It did come back. As soon as Bedard scored it, he's basically about 10 feet away from the goal, and he's just staring down Martin, who's on the ice. Now, Martin did make a good effort on the play. He just wasn't able to get over in time, but I wouldn't fault Martin on the goal for any reason. But, this kid he's cocky. He's a very good hockey player. Yeah. But he's cocky and he's a little bit arrogant. And as he was staring down Martin just pointed up at the scoreboard because it was, like I said, I think it was 5-2, 4-2 at that. Yeah, it was 5-2, I think, at that point. So I don't know why he's thinking he's all tough staring down Martin like that. But just an interesting little tidbit of the game.
It was interesting to me that the first 5 goals were even strength, and then the final 4 goals were all power play goals.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Canes gave away 16-12, had 7 takeaways to 4 for The Blackhawks out hit the Canes 24-12.
3 stars of the game were Sebastian Aho, Martin Necas, and Jesperi Kotkaniemi. Aho with a goal and assist, Necas with a goal and assist, and Kotkaniemi with a goal. His goal was a nice goal. He took it well. It was deflected by the defenseman on the way into the net. That being said, he's at least on the board. Hopefully this turns into a little bit more. Nothing else happens for him later in the week, as we will see, but, he's on the board.
Okay, let's move on to Florida.
All right, this was the game of the week for sure. Yeah. Florida Panthers versus the Carolina Hurricanes, a rematch of the Eastern Conference Finals of last year, and it felt just like where those games picked up or picked off, left off. Excuse me, picked up where those games left off.
Florida is a very good team.
They're a very, very good team. Paul Maurice is a very good coach, especially at this point in his career. Mm-hmm. Obviously former Hurricane. I believe he is still the franchise leader in terms of games coached by the franchise, Paul Maurice. Rob Brendamore's coming for those numbers, though, if he hasn't already taken them. But yeah, Aho gets the lone goal of the game with 19 seconds to go. That would be the winner in this game. Kochetkov stopped all 45 shots that he faced. Bobrovsky was very good as well, making 28 saves on 29 shots. He was absolutely amazing as well. Tkachuk and Forsling both left for injury for Florida in this game. Svechnikov just delivered a crushing hit on Tkachuk near the end of the first period.
Good.
Clean hit, delivered it right through the body. Slavin with a little bit of friendly fire from the Svechnikov hit. Basically, Svechnikov drilled Tkachuk right through the body, and Tkachuk kind of fell backwards onto Slavin a little bit, but Slavin no worse for wear. Good to see Svechnikov really finish that hit, and like I said, it was a clean hit, nothing malicious about it, but it did take Tkachuk out for the rest of the game. He was on the bench, and it didn't look like he was woozy because the contact wasn't on the head whatsoever, but it looked like he maybe was like kind of tapping his chest. I'm thinking maybe he bruised his sternum really bad or broke a rib or something like that. It was right through the body.
Well, this
shoulder
is the
on chest.
Pyotr Kochetkov game.
Yeah, Kochetkov was freaking fantastic this game. Like I said,
the Canes,
45
the Canes hit a couple crossbars. So I mean, we did
hit
have
the post
chances
twice. Canes hit the post at least twice in this game. Florida also hit the post twice in this game. Right. This game was just exciting from beginning to end. Shots were 16-8 for Florida in the first period, 12-12 in the second period, and 17-9 for Florida in the third period. But watching this game, it never felt like it was a mismatched game.
No.
The game was about as evenly matched as it gets. Florida, I guess, was just getting more on net. Maybe the Hurricanes were missing it. The Panthers did have 19 block shots to our 9, so that definitely helps in favor of that stat.
Yeah.
Face-offs in this game, 60% for the Florida Panthers, so not a point of pride for the Carolina Hurricanes on this evening. Face-off has got to get a little bit better than that. That being said, like I said, it was a really, really evenly matched game. Back and forth, really good chances, really good saves. In the second period, Bobrovsky makes an excellent kind of lifts his toe from a weird angle to make sure that Necas isn't able to elevate the puck over his pad because his pad is off the ice, leg pad off the ice, making a save as Necas comes streaking through the slot, makes a little move to take it wide on Bobrovsky, and the only thing Bobrovsky can do is lift his leg in such an awkward manner and makes an amazing save. In the third period, Kochetkov makes an equally good save and slides over on a 2-on-1. I can't remember who the Florida Panther was to shoot the puck, but really great save, and Drury kind of helps him out a little bit, throws it off the line as the puck had made its way behind Kochetkov, but wasn't going into the net, but Drury was still there to quickly get it out of the crease.
That's all that.
Just a fantastic game back and forth. Aho, with about 3 minutes to go in the third period, he misses the widest of open nets you've ever seen. I mean, couldn't have messed up more on the play. They're on the forecheck. The Hurricanes are. Aho kind of gets thrown down behind the Florida goal. One of the Florida Panthers defensemen is kind of holding him down. He gets up, and he's just kind of either a little bit slow to get up or a little bit flustered as he's getting up, and just the quickness of the play. Slavin delivers a beautiful tape-to-tape pass. Aho's standing in the crease with Bobrovsky in front of him. The pass goes past Bobrovsky. All he has to do is just angle it into the open net, and he pushes it past behind Bobrovsky, almost puts it back where it came from, and somehow misses the net. And luckily, he was not haunted by that for the rest of the evening.
Right.
He did get the lone goal with 18 seconds to go, but it looked like that was going to haunt him, because shortly after he did make that mistake and not score that goal, the puck returns to the other end of the ice, where one of their players makes an unbelievable one-handed play, kind of a broken 2-on-1. Slavin is the defender back-checking on the play, I believe, and he's reaching out. Both him and the offensive player are reaching out as the puck is sauced in front into the slot area. Slavin's reaching out. This Florida player is reaching out with one hand, and with one hand just kind of swings his stick around like this, just tips on the puck, and an unbelievable angle change that it takes, and beats Kochetkov off the post and in. That play was also challenged and ruled for offside. Right. So 2 games in a row where goals are challenged for offside successfully. And this one was should have been ruled offsides on the play. I don't know why they let it go over. The eventual goal scorer, whoever it was, it might have been Luosterainen, former Hurricane Luosterainen. I think that might have been who it was. In any case, unreal effort, but luckily brought back. And then later in the game, Aho would actually seal the deal with 18 seconds to go. He picks up a Svechnikov rebound after it bashes off the shins of the defenseman who blocks Svechnikov's shot. Aho kind of grabs it in the slot, turns, and just fires it, no hesitation, to beat Bobrovsky short side over the glove.
Just interesting. Look at the
hell of a game.
Giveaway,
such an exciting game. And I forgot to mention, leading up to, so the last 3 minutes of the game, Aho misses a wide open net with about maybe 3:20 or so left in the game, if my memory serves me. Then it comes back down. They score. Florida scores. That's about maybe 2:30 into the game, maybe even less, maybe around the 3-minute mark. That's challenged, gets pulled back. Then with the Hurricanes put a press on from about minute 2 to minute 1. Then around the 52nd mark, I believe, they hit the post. The puck comes back the other way, and then Aho picks up that loose puck in the slot and fires it home. So just the end of that game was just so crazy, and it was indicative of the rest of the game. The rest of the game was just as intense, just the stakes are higher, obviously, with less time on the clock. So
this is definitely,
it was a really good game. Sorry,
Eastern
go
Conference
ahead.
Championship.
Yeah, a rematch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say
so. It
so.
scares me. Florida, to me right now, if I was a betting man, I would have Florida winning the Stanley Cup.
I would agree with that. I was talking with a friend earlier today, and as far as the East is concerned, that's really the only team I'm like super concerned about.
I mean, the Rangers are playing really, really well, but there's just something about them that I just don't. I think they're beatable.
Yeah, the games and the a big takeaway from me in this game was, yes, the Hurricanes came out of this game with the victory. They needed that win over the team that eliminated them from the playoffs last year. They really, really, wanted that win, and they deserved that win. It was a hard-fought game, but as hard-fought as that game was, they were still without Forsling, and they were without Tkachuk for most of that game. So what happens if those two guys are in the lineup? Are we able to withstand it with the guys that we have on our roster?
Yeah.
To me, I really came out of that game with the sense of we just have to get deeper. I know we're a really good team. I know we've been really, really good. We've been so hot lately. I don't know what we are in our last 10, but it's 8-2, 7-3-1. It's something like that.
6-3 for February.
6-3 for February. Okay, I mean it's
and we've got 3 games left, and they're all winnable games. So we could end up 9-3. Let's knock on wood.
So, the Hurricanes are playing really good hockey right now. Especially, these were my thoughts after the Florida game. But it was really evident to me that if we are going into this playoffs with this exact same roster that we have right now, at best, if we play perfect games, we can beat the Florida Panthers, maybe the Vancouver Canucks if we reach the finals, maybe the Dallas Stars if we reach the finals. Vegas is a very tough opponent. Like, these are the teams that come to mind when I'm like, okay, who with our current roster and our current style of play, any given game, do I feel pretty hard pressed that we're going to come out with the W? And those are the teams that come to mind. And I just think if you can add a piece, even if it's just a depth piece, I think it's going to serve us well. Teuvo Teravainen, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, and at this point, Nason, I think maybe only because he's kind of dragged down by those other two. That line's not doing much. Mm-hmm. Now, it looked okay for moments in this next game, the Dallas game, but it's not doing much, and they're not adding a lot to the team. Now, any of those guys you put on other lines, with the exception of maybe Kotkaniemi at this point, can be useful. Turbo still can be useful on this team. I believe that. Nason still can be useful on this team. Even Kotkaniemi can still be useful on this team. Kotkaniemi's got 10 goals on the season. I'm not saying he can't score goals. I'm saying I don't feel confident when he's on the ice that anything is going to happen that results in us having a puck in the back of the net.
You're right. He's third. He's tied with Natchez. 17 goals.
Yeah, and again, all of his Turbo we're talking about here, and Kotkaniemi we're also talking about here, all of theirs came at the beginning of the season.
Okay, so we can get into that because it's a really interesting subject because it depends on what you want to do. So let's wrap up the Dallas game, and then we'll come back to
all right. We'll come back to that.
The main theme of the.
Okay, so the Dallas Stars game, which just ended a couple hours ago, a little bit less than a couple hours ago.
Yeah, it's 2-1 loss.
It was a 2-1 loss. Final shots in this game, I guess they readjusted it here. I had in my notes 22-16 Carolina. It looks here like they adjusted it to 21-16. So maybe I missed the adjustment. But in any case, Jason Robertson in the first period from Miro Heiskanen, I believe is how you pronounce it. Heiskanen. And Joe Pavelski. So their top line makes it 1-0 at 16:38 in the first period. In the second period, Aho on a breakaway with a nice play from Jesper Fast to find him streaking up the middle of the ice. Makes it 1-1 with a wrist shot beating Ottinger glove side high.
Yeah, and at that point,
2:16 into the second period.
Confident.
Yep. And then Wyatt Johnston would answer about 5-6 minutes later with his 19th of the season, with an assist from Jamie Benn and Miro Heiskanen again. That would be a wrist shot that deflects off of Kochetkov's right pad above the knee, kind of right at the thigh point, I guess, and kind of tucks under his arm. So it hits him about here off the pad, tucks under his blocker side arm. Wyatt Johnston used, I believe it was Slavin as a screen on the play. So, nice move by him. I'm not sure how clean Kochetkov saw it. That being said, it was a very savable.
He was deep in his net too.
It was a very savable, and he wasn't bad this
game. That's the goal that he probably should have saved.
Yeah, the goal by Jason Robertson was pretty fortunate. Brett Burns actually makes a really good play to go down to the ice and block the shot. It just so happens that when he blocks the shot, the way he blocks it, the puck just happens to fall immediately back to Robertson's, the blade of his stick, who just holds it for a split second longer because Kochetkov is already down on the ice because he's reacting just like Burns is to the initial shot. And then it doesn't get to him. So then, Robertson basically has
That
pretty
was a
much an
good effort
open
by
net.
Robertson.
Yeah,
He was falling down. It was a really good goal on his part.
and again, this is another thing I kind of come back to. This game for us that we lost this week felt very much to our last loss of the season, which was against the Dallas Stars. That was an away game, but in that game, the Hurricanes also outshot them by a fair margin, more than this game. This was a pretty low shot game,
Yeah,
but
very
in that
low.
game, it wasn't. I believe it was like something like maybe 40 shots to 24, or something to that effect.
Yeah.
Could you look up the score of that one while I vamp on this
I
one?
can, but I just wanted to point
Oh, here it
out
is.
the Canes had
It was
four.
it was 4-2. That was a 4-2 game.
Yeah, it was on the 13th of February. Canes had four penalty kills. I mean, they were just taking stupid penalties.
That Dmitry Orlov penalty, that's not interference. The one at the
No, I
very
don't think
end of
so
the second
either.
period,
I don't think so either.
that's a clean hit. I don't
Yeah.
know when the rule, when did the timing change? He's clearly making forward progress to deliver the hit before the player makes the backhand move to get the pass off. What happens is in the very end of the second period, Dmitry Orlov delivers a nice clean hit on a Dallas player about in the slot, the high slot area, as that Dallas Stars player is passing the puck over to his teammate. So he has his head down, or rather up, looking kind of back to his teammate as he's making a backhand pass. The guy was lefty, going this way. Orlov steps up into him, delivers a clean shoulder right through the middle of the chest. Clean hit. They immediately blew the whistle and called interference on the play.
They probably thought the puck had been gone too long, I guess.
Right,
I don't know.
I guess that's the only thing, but I don't know. I mean, Orlov was interfered with earlier on that play. I mean, it was kind of a week, but they were calling everything pretty much by the book today. Now, I didn't think that one was by the book, but any kind of loose hand that they saw, they were getting. They kind of missed one there against Orlov, and then he takes one, and then as soon as they kill that off, the Hurricanes do. They basically had all 2 minutes of that kill off to start the third period. Mm-hmm. Orlov then takes another penalty very shortly after exiting the box. So Carolina being down 2-1 going into the third period, they can't get the momentum, that they need to start that period.
Exactly. I mean, the penalties were 4-2 against us, but there was no penalty. There were no power play goals, but it's all about the momentum, right?
Correct.
You just can't get into the flow of the game.
I mean, shots were 21-16. When was the last time there was a Carolina Hurricanes game where there was that few shots on net? Now, sometimes we hold teams to only, I think the lowest this season was 13 against Arizona. I think we held them to.
Yeah,
and the other
13 or 11, yeah,
something like that. It was something ridiculously low.
Yeah.
The Stars, who are a team that's arguably going to be contending for the Stanley Cup, only got 16 shots on net for us against us. We didn't play bad D. We didn't play bad at all tonight. But it's one of those games similar to their last game where their best players make better plays than our best players in that particular game. And I'm saying their best players are better than our best players, but they're making those plays in that game.
There was probably 3 separate instances where the Canes made one too many passes.
Yeah, that was definitely a storyline of tonight. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, one of those 3, we just go ahead and snap one off because it's only 8 feet away or whatever. Maybe you get a goal. Maybe you end up tying the game.
Maybe you live to fight another day.
Yeah.
The puck is saved, but then you pick up a rebound and you cycle through and you get a good effort, right? Instead, the one that comes to mind is Kokaniemi and Slavin and Turbo on a 3-on-1.
Yeah.
And Turbo has it on the right side, leading the 3-on-1. He passes back to Kokaniemi, the high man in the slot, and Slavin is over to the left. Slavin doesn't end up factoring in on the play, which I have no issue with because it's 3-on-1. There's only so many options. But Kokaniemi, instead of choosing to fire the puck, which is probably a smart decision because he's being back-checked, so it's becoming a 3-on-2 as the play is developing. He's got the puck in the middle of the slot. Fire it right away and just put it on Ottinger. You've got two guys on either side who might be able to get a rebound. You're coming in hot. You might be able to get your own rebound. But instead, he chooses to pass it right back to Turbo. And they did this was it in the Florida game as well? Yeah, I think it was in the Florida game.
I heard that was one of the comments coming out of the game.
Especially with those two guys, 82 and 86, KK and Turbo. At times during this season, and it's now, that time is now, they're lacking the confidence to make the right plays with the puck.
Yeah.
You got to be quick and you got to be decisive, and they show that they want to be quick and decisive, but they're making the wrong reads. In the Florida game, I believe it was the Florida game. I'm pretty certain it was a Florida game. If not, it was a very recent game. Kotkaniemi makes a really great drop pass to Turbo. Turbo has a wide open lane. He as Kotkaniemi makes that drop pass, he kind of drags the defender with him,
right,
going this way across the ice. Turbo then receives the pass, cutting behind KK, and has a wide open lane to the net. I mean, he could have skated another 15, 20 feet right at it was the Florida game, right at Bobrovsky, and taken a shot, made a move and taken a shot, waited for someone else to show up and then make a pass. But instead, he chooses to get the puck and then immediately slide it back to Kotkaniemi. They're trying to be too slick and too tricky and too Kucherov-y for their own good. Okay, they're not him. Stop trying to be super slick and stop trying to throw the liability on another player, by putting them in a bad position with the puck where they can't get the puck off.
So I had that similar thought. There was a play in the game because I was paying particular attention to Tony DeAngelo. Just
Tony had a good game on against Florida. He played a lot of.
He had an okay game against Dallas too. He lost a couple.
He made an error in like the first minute.
Right. I know. But
it turned out to be okay. But I didn't notice anything else from him.
But he had a shot.
Pardon me.
I want to think it was it might have been the third period or late in the second. He had a shot from just inside the blue line. It was a good shot, but Ottinger just clearly grabbed it.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, when he goes back to the bench, I wonder if Brindamore says, Tony, that was a good shot, but why don't you try hitting the pads next time? Because
he always snaps it high and he hopes for a deflection. Tony DeAngelo, from the point when he risks it, I don't think he really shoots for goals from the point. I think he shoots for deflections.
If you're not going to shoot for goals, shoot for something that's hard for the goaltender to handle.
Agreed.
Shoot it along the ice.
Agreed.
Okay.
I agree.
Slavin does that to some extent. When he shoots, he'll just throw it along the ice.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that's Carolina Hurricanes hockey. We need to stop trying to be too cutesy, as you say. I like your use of Kucherov. There's only so many Kucherovs in the world, and they ain't on the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah. Aho at times can do that, but Aho knows his strengths. He's a better player than both Turbo and Kotkaniemi. I'm not saying.
So Dallas has our number.
I'm dragging him into this conversation.
They swept the 2 games of the season, and you know what? You talked about Tkachuk being out, and who else was out in Florida? The Stars had 4 starters out in this game.
Who'd they have out?
They had two D-men and two forwards from I can't remember.
It must be third or fourth liners. But still, the point taken.
Yeah.
This game, Jason Robertson and Wyatt Johnson, 2 of their better players, got their goals. Jason Robertson got his 19th of the season. Wyatt Johnson also got his 19th of the season. Aho got his 22nd of the season, so that's good that our big boys are playing. But in the other game, let me see if I can click on it here, their big boys beat us as well. I believe Pavelski So Robertson scored in that game. Rupe Hintz, their leading goal scorer, scored in that game.
Marchmont, Robertson,
Mason Marchment, who got his 17th of the season against us, and Robertson with his 18th. So yeah, Robertson, his past 2 goals were against the Carolina Hurricanes, his 18th and 19th. Yeah.
But to be clear,
But again, this kind of goes back to the point I like making. I always like making this point.
yeah, okay, let's talk.
They've got the guys that are going to make the difference when you don't bring your A game, right? They have a Jason Robinson, they have a Wyatt Johnson, they have a Rupe Hintz. Okay, Svechnikov can be that. Aho can be that. He was that today when the rest of the team wasn't really great.
It's about where it ends.
But exactly, it ends there. So then when Kochetkov does let in just 1 weak goal on only 16 shots,
yeah, I know.
The rest of the team played well. We mentioned it several podcasts ago. You got to get 2 out of 3 to win most games. You got to get 2 out of 3, either good defense or good offense, or good defense and good offense and good goaltending, good defense and good goaltending. You can have a game like the Stars did today where they didn't have good offense, but Ottinger was good enough and their forwards got it done. There's very few games where that's the case for us. The game against the Florida Panthers, I don't think we had bad defense. I don't think, even though they got 45 shots against us, that's a really good team against another really good team. But I wouldn't say we were bad defensively in that game. Part of the reason they got so many shots is because they were shooting from bad angles, right? We obviously got really good goalkeeping in that game, and the offense was good in that game. We just missed several good opportunities. Now, ultimately, we got the one that ultimately mattered, and great, yada, yada, yada. But, yeah, every time we lose these tough games like this, it seems to always be their best players making the difference, whereas our best players don't seem to be the difference makers as much. Does that make sense?
It makes sense because we don't say a lot of names when we talk about
and that's fine. I like the makeup of our team, but if you're gonna be this way, you just have to be deeper. And Kotkaniemi isn't deep enough. It's not gonna get the job done.
Okay, so let's move on. So when we talk about what are the Kings going to do?
WWGMDW. What would General Manager Don Waddell do?
My question to you, because that was your assignment to me, is, okay, are you talking about for this run at a Stanley Cup or for the future of the team? Because they're different things.
Well, if you have answers for both, then I'd love to hear it. I was more referring to just talking about the kind of the immediate. So immediate needs of the team.
Okay.
And now I'm going to say something, but if you want to start at a different point, we can start at a different point. One thing that I think is important to this larger conversation is the goaltending situation. Now, I don't think we're in a need for a goaltender. That being said, we know where everyone's at on the goaltending roster. We know how critical it is that everyone stays healthy. We know how unlikely that is to be. We know where Kochetkov's at now, which is encouraging, but we still are not fully sure of what Spencer Martin is. We've never been sure this season of what Ronta is. We can't be sure of what Freddie's going to be. So,
the question is, which goaltenders do you want to take into the playoffs?
I want to take Kochetkov and Freddie Anderson.
I guess if that's an option, I do too.
Right. And I think that's what the team is hoping for and banking on. And I think, I would think he's been cleared for quite a long time medically, Freddie Anderson, to do it, to practice. Okay. He took even more time to come back and actually start practicing. So I'm under the assumption that Freddie Anderson will be able to play a game for the Carolina Hurricanes. Ooh, when is the trade deadline? It's like mid-March, right?
March 8th, I thought.
Oh, it's earlier. Shit. Okay.
Listen, I don't want to trade I don't want to trade a goalie and bring in somebody else's second string that's only going to play 3 or 4 games the rest of the year.
That's fine. I agree with that sentiment, but I think we have to do something from our goaltenders because we can't keep 4 guys on the roster. Right now, we've got 3 goalies on the roster. Freddie's, I believe, still he's an
LTIR or whatever it is.
Is he LTIR or is he a scratch? Let me look it up. Let me look it up. You keep going.
He's not listed in cap friendly against their cap hit. He's called injured reserve.
Okay, so he is on injured reserve still.
Yeah.
Okay.
$3.4 million. He's the most expensive goalie we have. Ranta is only 1.5. So
the money's less of an issue. The bigger issue is roster spots. Right now, you've got Kochekov and you've got Martin. Okay.
Yeah, why don't you just tell Auntie Ron, you either waive him or you try to trade him. It's not an issue of having spots. Get rid of him.
Okay. It is as simple as that.
Yeah.
But do you try to get a package back with
and
other stuff?
And so that comes back to the
because here's the
question.
thing: no one wants Ranta right now. No, he has absolutely zero value on the trade market unless you can couple him with something. I don't think Ranta, period. Even if you couple him with anything, I don't think he's the guy that is worth a trade asset for any other team. Now, Martin maybe, Freddie definitely. I think there's still interest, and Kochekov definitely, but. Obviously,
John,
we're not getting...
it's a moot point. Who gives it?
I'm just saying, how big does this factor into the other conversation about trying to package it with other things to get another player?
We said it here, and it can be a sweetener, but let's not have it drive the conversation.
Okay, that's fine. That's why I wanted to at least mention
talk about KK and Turbo, and let's talk also about maybe Fast and Natchez. I think you're more dead on than I am. If I look at those 4 guys I just mentioned, I think KK's the guy that is expendable. But KK's on a long-term contract. And to your point on an earlier episode, no one's going to touch it.
Right. The guys that I think are tradable on this roster are Ranta, Martin, Kokiniemi, Turbo, Natchez, even Bunting, Drury, Nason.
Yeah. So you're going.
It's a bigger list.
You just named off our 3rd and 4th lines basically.
Pretty much. Yep. I'd say anyone pretty much on the 3rd or 4th line, and depending on where you want to put Bunting, maybe him as.
You're not going to be able to. I mean, that's very risky to say, hey, I'm going to just wipe out everybody and bring in a bunch of 6 new guys.
I'm not saying you get rid of everybody and bring in 6 new guys. I'm just saying those are the assets that I think the team would be willing to trade if the right trade thing came up. I'm not saying they're looking to get rid of any of those players. I think ideally they really don't want to change a lot on the roster at all.
Right.
And I think more than anything, to get something on the roster, you're going to give up the pieces that you're going to trade are picks. They're not, these players that we're talking about. And the players are going to be sweeteners on this, and maybe you can do like a talent for talent type of trade where you trade Natchez for someone of equal, relatively equal value, at least as the way this organization would see that value. Maybe a guy who's not going to put up quite as many points, but more solid defensively, maybe as a center like we could use to replace Kokiniemi. But that's the thing. Then you're taking away Natchez on the wing. You're putting in, a center or something like that.
So then when you start talking about guys that excite you, they're on contenders. So those guys, now they're not going to be available because everyone's going to try to stockpile assets.
When you say guys that excite you, you mean like the players that are really going to matter and game changers
that are UFAs right now.
Okay, well, what players are you thinking about? Because I've got a couple that aren't. UFAs or aren't on contenders that I think are at least worth talking about.
Okay, so there are a couple teams that aren't going to make the playoffs. They're slipping fast. One of them is the Pittsburgh Penguins. The other one
Pittsburgh
is
may not make it. Yep.
and a couple that aren't going to make it. There's Buffalo, there's Columbus, but even teams like the Devils, they may come to a point where they say, you know what we tried to do at the end of last season, bringing in Timo Meyer, it's just not working for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they re-sign Jasper Bratt. Maybe Tyler Toffoli's available. Toffoli's
a goal scorer.
He's at 40. He's at 39 points. Mark Natchez was at 40, but he's also a -8, and he's 4.3 million. So
I like Toffoli on a team like the Devils. I don't think he fits well with the Hurricanes. He's a bit slow of foot.
Is he?
He's a bit slow of foot, and I don't think he's really that responsible defensively. But he's consistent with the goal scoring. He has been for a long time.
When you just describe him,
mm-hmm.
to me, there's only one difference in your description than how I would describe Martin Natchez, and that's Natchez's fleet of foot.
I think that Natchez is more. And I'm not saying I'm a Tyler Toffoli expert by any means, but I think that Natchez is actually more defensively responsible than we give him credit for. He loses a lot of board battles, but he's still there making the battle and making the play difficult for the other team. I don't know if Tyler Toffoli is the guy to even. Again, I don't want to speak about his game too much, because I don't really know it all that well. I just don't think the Hurricanes are necessarily really wanting to go that old either, I think is another thing. He is older.
Yeah.
And especially with a guy like him, he's at least getting paid pretty decently right now. What's his, do you know what his contract's like?
4.3 million is a cap hit.
But how many years? Just through the end of this year?
So he's restricted free agent.
So but just 1 year.
Yeah.
Okay. So he could be extended.
But see, he's a guy. So
he's a guy that I think is maybe too big of a guy.
Wait a minute. Let me
for
look
the
at
idea that you're only going to get him for one season, because I don't see him being signed with this team after a playoff run. This playoff run. I do think, guys like that, the Hurricanes are potentially interested in for a playoff run. A guy like a Max Domi, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying Tyler Toffoli is like a Max Domi, but Max Domi, I think, was a guy they were always probably looking at just signing him for the offseason. I don't really think there was a ton of thought that they were going to get a deal done in that.
We had this discussion, and I brought up this concept of incremental. I don't know that Max Domi gives you incremental more than what our team, these other guys.
No, and but I think they thought it might when they went and got him.
Yeah, I know, but
okay. So here's some guys that I think are interesting and could give some incremental. And Toffoli is kind of similar to this next guy I'm going to bring up, and I don't think that this is a super serious, but it's at least interesting to me. Is Vladimir Tarasenko.
Yeah.
The Sens are not going to make the playoffs. I think he's frustrated. I think at least at one point it seemed like there was a willingness to come here. That deal didn't go through. I've heard that he would, maybe never really wanted to come here, but it was reported on enough that he was coming here that it makes me think he's at least open to the idea of coming here.
32 years old.
And he's a right winger. He's 32 years old. He is the type of guy that's going to score goals, which we desperately need as far as our depth is concerned. I think with him, you probably put him on the third wing, at least to start, and then maybe he can work his way up to the second wing. I don't know how well forwards can just jump into the system, particularly older guys. I mean, 32 is not crazy old, but
no.
the system has to be learned by forwards, and he's not exactly the most responsible defensively, but he can put pucks in the back of the net. And so I think in the short term, if you can just get him for this year, that might be an option. I think the Senators aren't going to make the playoffs. They might be willing to get him, maybe even just like a 3rd round pick, and
who
maybe
does he
a
replace
prospect
in the lineup?
What's that?
Who does he replace in the lineup?
He would replace Jesper Fast or Teuvo Teravainen, I think.
I think that might be okay. If you replace, now you give up some, I don't know what Tarasenko's defensive skills are like. He's at a plus 15 though with the Senators. That can't be right. Yeah, he's a plus 15 this year. 37 points in 52 games.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. If you can bring him in and exactly.
Now, I'm thinking Adam Henrique of the
Ducks.
Ducks.
34 years old, isn't he?
He's 34 years old. His cap hit is $5.8 million. He's a center and also a left winger. He could definitely play on the 3rd line.
Yeah.
He can play center or wing, which I really like.
He's a restricted free agent.
So then you do this. You sit Kotkaniemi. You put
that's a good
Drury
idea.
back on the 4th line. You put Adam Henrique on the 3rd line, and nothing else changes in your lineup.
Yeah, I like the way you're thinking.
Right?
36 points in 55
Drury,
games. He's a -2. But
Drury, Bunting, and Natchez, that line's been pretty good lately. Okay? And I think Natchez and Bunting have been playing really well, but Drury has not been slouching either, okay? He had a really good move today in the after he came out of the penalty box. He had a really good move in the game today against Dallas. Yeah, he put it through the defender's legs and then he got a nice shot. Just couldn't go far post enough. Andre made a good save. But you put him back on the 4th line. Don't you think that Nason becomes a little bit more dangerous and Turbo becomes a little bit more dangerous? In my eyes, I've got a lot more confidence in Jack's offensive skills than KK's offensive skills. And so that's got to translate into the more goals and more offense for the other guys on that line.
Well, you're bringing Henrique to that line.
No, I'm bringing Henrique to the 3rd line. I'm removing KK from the lineup altogether.
And who's his partners?
Henrique's?
Yeah.
So you would have Bunting and Natchez. Something like that.
Okay. And then the 4th line would be who? Nason, Drury, and
Nason, Drury, and Fast. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess yeah. Or I guess, yeah. Turbo, whatever the fucking lines are. Turbo can play back there. I just think you take out Adam Henrique and you take out Kotkaniemi and you add Adam Henrique to the lineup. Something like that. How bad do you wish that guys like Trocheck or Nino Niederreiter were on the team right now?
So here's a player that I've wanted. He's still young. He's got good goal scoring abilities for the last couple of years. And I think Pittsburgh's not going to make the playoffs. This is Jake Guentzel. This is, to me, he would be more.
He's the only game changer.
Huh?
He's the only game changer, potential game changer out there right now.
And he's young enough, and he could be a block for the future, a foundational block for the future, I think.
29. He makes $6 million.
Yeah, but look at his stats.
Yeah, he's great. He's a good goal scorer. Yeah.
And the only reason Pittsburgh would maybe entertain that is they may just say, listen, it's time.
Okay, so let's go down this hypothetical. You get a left winger out of Jake Guentzel. What do you give up to give him? At this point, the window's closing rapidly on Pittsburgh. Dubas is going to make a choice to either go all in with what he can do left with Crosby and Malkin and Carlson and Letang, or he's going to start the rebuild, or he's probably going to play some middle ground, honestly, where he, keeps them contending, at least keeps them around the playoff line, and then continues to get assets so that the future, is bright for the Penguins. And so I think they are in a point where they're going to be collecting picks. They could be, because they're not going to make John, if they don't make the playoffs.
I mean, what's it going to take to get Gensel?
That's what I'm saying. What's it going to take to get Gensel? So I'm saying you give up a first and a second.
Okay, I'll give you an idea. Here's an idea.
I think you get rid of Natchez to get Gensel.
Huh? You don't?
I think you get rid of a guy like Natchez.
Yeah. Let's do that. Let's do Natchez, Pomeranov, and a pick.
I don't know if I like that.
Why?
Because Ponomarov could be a guy who could fill in for Natchez, could fill in for KK, should those guys exit the lineup. So I don't think you package two guys like that. Maybe you give a lesser pick. Because again, this is just I'm just talking about just for one season. Now, if you're re-signing the guy, that's different.
Him. I want him to
but we got to have talks with his agent before we're gonna make a trade without knowing that he's willing to re-sign here. That we have to be allowed to talk. The Penguins need to allow us the opportunity to talk to his agent.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. But, so if there is a re-signing, then yeah, you make all these crazy moves. I'm saying a guy like Adam Henrique is a little bit more of a. You don't necessarily have to give up a ton to get him. The Ducks are definitely on a rebuild.
Yeah.
You can probably get him for just a couple picks, maybe a first and a third or something like that.
Is he assistant captain for them? Or is
he captain? He is. I believe he is a point of leadership on the team. Another guy I really have always liked, and I don't know how well he would actually fit with us, but he's got a lot of speed. I really like the effort he puts in. He's not necessarily willing, or he's not necessarily afraid to throw the body. Is Anthony Duclair.
Yeah, he hasn't. His stats aren't anything this year.
His stats aren't anything crazy this year, but he's on a dog shit team in San Jose. So I'm not saying that, but I don't know. I just would love to see him on a third or fourth line. He's just going to inject a lot of energy onto that, and he's a winger. We don't really need. That's the thing. We don't really need wingers.
So, John, as I was going through this exercise, looking at salaries and kind of looking at what people have done this year, productive wise, the Canes stack up pretty. Even if you look at like Jack Drury and what he's getting paid for his production, it's pretty good.
Like
Stefan Mason makes $800,000 a year, and he's got like 30-odd points.
Oh, Nason is the best player, at least about a month ago. He's like the highest point. I don't know how to word the stat I'm looking for. But basically, he gets paid the least for each point. Yeah, per point. So how many points he has relative to his salary is the lowest ratio. He's got the highest amount of points per lowest salary.
So again, we go back to what's the original intent? If you want to rebuild for the future, then you've got a lot of guys probably that you could, like Teravainen, I think probably is expendable. He's over $5 million cap hit.
Yeah, Teravainen is not adding much right now. I'm a big Teravainen guy. I've always loved Teravainen. I've always thought he's a really good player. He's not adding much to the team right now.
Right.
And come playoff time, if he's not scoring, he's not adding the grit that's necessary.
Yeah.
He's not a guy that throws around the body.
If we keep Nason, we're going to have to pay him. If we keep Jarvis, we're going to have to pay him. Jarvis makes $1.6 million. Oh, excuse me. He makes $900,000 this year. He's going to get a big raise. He's going to be over $2 million a year next year.
Well over $2 million a year.
Well over.
He's going to be 4.5, something like that.
He's going to double his salary at least. So Cap Friendly has our deadline space at $6.7 million.
All right, but how does that? I guess how does this affect just like this season and this off season? Because too much can happen. There's too many hypotheticals. I don't have enough patience to discuss all the potentials of going into next season with how our cap is now. So how does it relate to what's going on this off season? I guess.
I guess where I'm going with that is every year it happens where there's a veteran on a team that is out of the playoffs and he wants to get a Stanley Cup. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But there's always that type of the Canes in the day, they would loan Francis to the Leafs or they'd loan Wesley to the Leafs. Is there a player out there that would get loaned to us of that caliber? I don't know. Yeah. I like your idea of Tarasenko. I like your idea of Enrique. I think it'd be great if we could bring in Getzel for the next.
There's not a lot out there, man. If the organization had any trust that Pacioretty wasn't going to re-injure himself, I don't know if I'm super opposed to that either. He at least knows the system.
And at least seen him trade Pesci for Pacioretty. The Red Wings aren't going to. The Red Wings aren't going to get rid. I have 3 Red Wings listed down here. And I know they're not going to get. No, they're not going to get rid of or 2.
Red Wings are going to make the playoffs. The Red Wings aren't getting rid of anybody. They're going to make the playoffs.
Daniel Sprong is a good young player, and I got Raymond here as well.
Yeah,
but they're not. I mean, they're cheap, but no one's going. They're not going to get rid of them.
No,
they're part of the Yzer plan.
Yeah, I don't think anything really. There's no splashes made unless Natchez is part of the package.
The other guy I have for us,
I don't think we get anyone big unless Natchez is part of the package.
Yeah, and he might. So the next name I'd mention before we break up is someone that you might be able to do an even swap with Natchez with an organization, and that is Casey Middlestat with Buffalo. I like his game center.
Okay, so he's the same as Henrique.
Yeah. But he's 9 years younger than Henrique.
Mm-hmm.
Again,
I don't know. I'm not super optimistic for what's out there on the market.
Right.
I don't love what's out there. I don't love the prospects. Gensel would be nice. Is that realistic? I don't know. It feels like this trade deadline is one of the. It doesn't feel like there's a lot out there.
Mm-mm. So if you go to just the UFAs,
too many teams. Too many teams still in the hunt.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, all the teams that aren't in the hunt have young players that are trying to develop a core. And they're not, their stats don't support making a big splash for. The number one, the highest paid restricted free agent is Steven Stamkos.
Yeah, Stammer's not going anywhere.
No.
I mean,
then you got Voracek, Pedersen, Reinhardt.
Yeah, none of these guys are
not going anywhere.
Yeah.
You got Jordan Eberle with Seattle, who plays right wing, but he's 34.
I saw that. That's another interesting one. I like Eberle's game.
He's 34.
He's a depth guy. See, that's the type of guy where I'm like, okay, you go after him. If Seattle's in a position where they're willing to sell, okay, maybe you go after him. Maybe you give up like Jesper Fast and a second rounder, something like that. And maybe you do that without even knowing if he's willing to re-sign. But he's a guy who's experienced enough, has been around long enough. I feel he'd probably be pretty hungry for a championship. I don't know. I don't think he's ever had one before. I believe he spent most of his career with the Islanders prior to being with Seattle. But yeah, I like that. You know, if there's a way, if there's a way you can get like a guy like that on the third, fourth line, I don't know.
No, that doesn't sound too bad. So, I mean, there's a lot. We'll just have to. We're going to see what Don Waddell's going to end up doing.
Yeah. So he played for the Oilers and he played for the Islanders. Okay,
that's it.
So
Oilers.
So neither team obviously has won the Stanley Cup anytime recently. He definitely would be searching for one. He's been around the league since 2013, so this is his 10th year in the league. I mean, he's not an old player by, you know, most guys. I think he's low 30s, early 30s. But he's got enough skill. Yeah, he's about my age, so yeah, early 30s. He's got enough skill that if you can get him for not giving up a lot, add some depth. Like I said, you're not adding a lot offensively with anything that KK's doing. You're not adding a lot offensively.
Yeah. But
Jesper Fast is playing really well with Svechnikov and Aho, so I don't think you really want to break that up.
Yeah, I think even if Don Waddell doesn't do anything, I think it's going to be. I don't know that it's going to be that bad. You know what I mean? Because we don't know.
I don't think it's going to be that bad, but I just want to get. I want my confidence in the team to grow from this point onwards as we approach the playoffs. And there's a couple ways that can happen. There's the players that we have start playing better. There's the goaltending situation really finally coming to a point where no one really is super worried about it. The way that can happen is having Freddie get back quickly and get a handful of games that are well played under his belt. We know Spencer Martin's at least pretty dang solid. Like, you know, he's not going to steal you 100 games, but he's if you play well in front of him, he can win you games against tough teams like Boston. Yeah. And who else did he beat that was tough? Did he play against Vegas with us?
Yeah, I think so.
Was it Vegas?
The Golden Knights, yeah.
Yeah, and then, you know, he helped beat Chicago. Not Chicago's the easiest one there, but still.
Right.
So that's one way I can get some confidence is Kotkaniemi and Turbo. If they start scoring, that can be a big confidence booster. If the goalies can get healthy, that can be a big confidence booster. If we can make attempts, if I can be shown that this team that the general managers and the management of this team are confident in this group, confident enough in the players that we have to go out and get someone else to assist us along this journey in the playoffs, that can also bring me confidence. But I want to get more confident in from here on to the, you know, going into the playoffs. And those are the ways that I see that happening. The most likely of which is that we go and get someone, because I don't think the goaltender situation is going to be resolved in time. Like, the trade deadline is coming up here soon. We've only got a couple weeks.
No, I know, but you're not gonna take the players on your team who you feel are expendable and package them for, you know, Tim Stützle.
Yeah, I know.
Right? So it's going to be a pick and choose, an incremental here, a draft pick there. And then at the end of the day, what do you have? What kind of team do you have? Is it better than what you got now? And I don't know that it is, unless you really can get
the way
that guy out there or that team out there that's willing to get rid of one of their stars.
Yeah, not necessarily even a star, but there's players on this team who are clearly improvable. Is it time to overpay for that now, or are you just going to hold on to them and hope that they become something great down the line when it's looking like they're not going to, right?
You're like saying KK.
Do you get rid of KK, retain some of his salary so that he's more appealing to get rid of for another team?
Yeah.
He can go be a fourth liner for the rest of his time on his existing contract for that team. We get back a really nice guy, you know, a really nice player, but we also give up a first round in 2025 and a first round in 2027.
What player?
But I'm just saying, is this management? But I'm just saying, let's just say there is a player like that. Is this management even willing to go do something like
well,
that?
that's a good question. And
that's the thing that I'm either going to be given more confidence by the players getting better, or the management themselves can give me that confidence and at least show me that they're willing to strike while the iron's hot. The iron is hot. I think it's going to remain hot. I don't think you want to put yourself in a position where you give up a lot of assets so that you don't stay hot, in the future, which is always what this team would rather do.
Right.
Yeah. It's tough because we've seen them not make the sexy choice over and over, and we've seen them come close to getting the sexy choice, like Matthew Tkachuk almost coming into Carolina, right? We've seen them come close, and so as a fan, I really want them to actually do it once or twice, but this year is probably not the year to do that, because we just went through all of the free agents available. We just went through all the potential. Right. There's not a ton out there. Slim pickings.
So the teams that are projected to have no cap space from cap friendly are the Leafs, the Lightning, the Avalanche, the Golden Knights, the Canadiens, and the Canucks. There's only one team I listed that aren't in the playoffs out of those 6, and that's Canadiens.
And those are the teams that don't have cap space?
They don't have cap space. We've seen in the past that the Golden Knights are very ruthless.
Yeah.
But they're not going to do it this year. Not when they're this thick in a hunt.
Yeah, they don't need to be ruthless. They're already a really good team.
Then you get into the Kings, the Wild, the Capitals, and the Penguins, and the Bruins. So there's another grouping of teams. So maybe we can get Ovechkin to be on the 4th line. I mean, again, is there anyone on the Capitals we would want? No. I don't think so.
If they're willing to part, we'll see. I don't know what his deal's like. I think he's got several more years on a long-term deal. It's just not good, or maybe just a couple more years. But if Kuznetsov was in a position where you could just grab him for basically cheap, just for a trial playoff run, maybe you go after a guy like that. But I don't think he fits our system.
So Kuznetsov,
he's got too much Alexander Semin in him.
No, don't say that.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Mantha is a restricted free agent. I mean, unrestricted.
I mean, what I said earlier, Pacioretty.
Yeah, Pacioretty, and then I don't know who Nicholas Abu-Kube is. But you know what?
How do you say it?
That's not even listed here.
I believe he's in the Players Assistance Program.
Oh, that's right.
So I don't know if he's playing or he's in rehab or what that is exactly. They keep it
so
anonymous,
what about our defense? Are you willing to give up any defensemen?
I am, but it's got to be so if you give up a defenseman, then you only are getting a big return back. Is there a way you can package one of our defensemen, Pesce, Shea, over to Calgary for something involving Jacob Markstrom? Maybe you give him Freddie Anderson as well to get Markstrom. That's a hell of a 1A, 1B moving into the future if you can get Markstrom and Kochetkov.
Yeah, Markstrom's like 34 years old. But okay.
Yeah, but you only need it for a couple years. Again, I see that would be kind of a 1A, 1B. Whoever can take the reins at that time, because the only other players that are really that I'm really interested in on Calgary would be their defensemen, Tanev and Hanifin.
I think you said it last episode that out of all our discussion here, I think we missed our prime opportunity to get our former draft pick.
Elias
Lindholm.
Lindholm.
Lindholm, sorry.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that would have been that.
That was. I think we missed our opportunity. I'm looking at San Jose. There's nobody here. I mean, Duclair. All right. So we have who we play tomorrow.
We play Buffalo tomorrow. So Buffalo, Minnesota, and Columbus are the next 3 games. Buffalo is an away game, followed by Minnesota, also an away game, and then the Columbus Blue Jackets back at home.
Yeah, maybe we'll see Spencer Martin tomorrow. So
Yeah,
I'm going to go see Connor Bedard tomorrow. The Blackhawks are retiring the jersey of Chris Chelios, but I'm not going to be able to attend that because I don't want to get there at 3. The game starts at 5. And it's, they're playing the Red Wings, so it's a good time to retire Chelios' jersey.
Mm-hmm.
That should be interesting.
Well, have fun with that. I think that'll be he's a hell of a player. I mean,
you remember we used to have like his nephew or something on the Canes.
Chelios?
Yeah, he spelled it differently. He spelled it the Greek way.
I didn't know they were related.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know they were actually related.
Yeah.
Okay.
He spelled it with a T, like a TS or something like that.
Yeah,
T-S-E-L-I-O-S.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bedard, I was actually referring to Bedard. He's a hell of a player. That'll be fun to see him play.
Yeah.
That
he reminds me so much of like
unreal.
Kane.
Yeah, they're different. I mean,
his size,
they're both
his ice awareness.
His size is ice awareness, but that shot it's way better than Kane's. And Kane's got a hell of a shot. This Bedard kid, that shot it's the best in the NHL. Yeah. Or if it's not right now, in a few years when he gets a little bit stronger, it will be better than Matthews.
That's what I worry about him, is his size.
Mm-hmm.
Getting beat.
I don't know if he'll ever be as legit of a goal scorer as Matthews, only because Matthews does have that size. It helps him buy the space that he needs. And Bedard's not the fastest skater either. So for as small as he is, he's not slow, but he doesn't have that breakaway speed.
He doesn't have McDavid speed.
He doesn't have McDavid speed. He doesn't have Barzal speed. I don't know if he even has Sebastian Aho or Andrei Svechnikov speed.
Hey, wait a minute. You just brought up a name that's intriguing. You think Barzal's available?
He doesn't fit the team.
No, you're right. He's too much like Natchez.
Yeah, let's put them both on the line. See how many fucking turnovers happen. Yeah.
All right.
Well, yeah. Thank you very much for joining us on another episode of StormWatch. It's been a pleasure. We really, really appreciate all the likes, all the views. Please share it with anyone. Please just let us know in the comments. Please, please, please. Tell us we stink. Tell us we're no good. Tell us what trades you think the Carolina Hurricanes should make. Tell us what's realistic. Tell us if the Hurricanes actually are going to go and do something. Tell if it's even worth doing something. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. We really, really, really do appreciate it. Go Canes. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.